The follow-up to one franchise and the beginning of another. It's time to have a look at She-Ra and the Rebellion. This journey began as a conversation about 80s nostalgia and why we felt that He-Man was the perfect idea for a war game. Simon had a very similar idea. My name is Jason the Bruce. I've been a critic of Simon, and this is my journey into the Masters of the Universe, Clash for Eternia. And here we are with She-Ra and the Great Rebellion. I've actually been saying this name wrong for a whole heap of time. This is one of our stretch goal expansions. Very much an important part of the Masters of the Universe mythos. So for those of you that are not aware where this came from, this is going to be an oversimplification of it. But basically, during the running of the original cartoon, they found out that there was actually a massive female population that was watching the show. And basically what they ended up doing was taking He-Man off the air and replacing it with She-Ra. Now that is very, very much an oversimplification of it. But that's basically where the She-Ra came from. It was essentially power play, but for what they perceived was the bigger audience. So on the back here, we get a look at the miniatures that's on in this. This does appear to just be a miniatures expansion though. There is some cards and there are some tokens, but unfortunately, there's no more scenarios after this point, which I find really disappointing. If you're going to be buying expansions for a game, you want it to give you more ways to play. Now, maybe they reached a point where there was no more that they could really create without essentially creating the same thing again, perhaps. Hard to tell, but let's get in on the action. Starting with our tokens here, we've got some rocks. We have tokens for I still don't understand why they do this. Like, is there a percentage of your audience that just doesn't enjoy miniatures? And if that's the case, why are you selling them? I just don't understand why they're doing this. It makes no sense to me. Obviously, there's a reason. These are tokens that you can use instead of the minis. I just don't understand why they exist. I just don't get it. This one's interesting. I'll come back to that guy in a minute because we have another box that I'm going to be opening in a moment that has this guy's miniature. On the back, it's just the same thing again. So they're just double-sided. There's no alternate sides on this one. 3 lots of decks here. We've got some minions and some terrain. These are the controlling decks for both the player and the controller. So these are your items and your abilities that you get as you unlock for your characters. I'm not going to go through this because there's not really a lot to show, but we are going to go through these ones. So we have our Bright Moon Archer. They can't gain power, apparently. We have Cow, who is an NPC. And we have Ice Walls. So, like our previous videos, I'm going to start with the AI characters. Here we have She-Ra. She's got a sword of protection. On the back, we have a larger piece of the artwork. Glimmer. I've actually been tempted to try. I keep on trying to rewatch the new version of She-Ra, which generally tends to get fairly decent reviews from most, not all people, but most people. I haven't gotten around to it though. These are very much designed on the original show. This is definitely not the aesthetic from the modern day version. Mermista. I don't remember this character at all, actually. And Perfumer. Or Perfumer. I love the rose gun. It's just so silly in the best way. Alright, and now getting into our proper cards. So here we have She-Ra. Kind of very similar. Not the same, but similar. And that's the empowered side. Flood Arena. And the empowered side, Glimmer. And the empowered side, Froster. And the empowered side, Bow. And the empowered side, Mermister. And the empowered side, Perfumer. Still, it's just such a silly thing. I love it so much. And the empowered side, I've got to say, I do like the fact that the AI cards and the player cards do have a differentiation, so it's easier than, like, it's not just the matter of the small text and you've got to look for it. It is a little bit more obvious. And then, like the others, the mounted version of She-Ra only has one side, which is this side, because she's already empowered, I suppose. And there she is with Swiftwind. My sister had this toy growing up. I don't remember where she got it from. Probably a birthday or something. But this was fun, honestly.
Sorry to interrupt the video, but I want to tell you about the competition that we're running through our Patreon. For every month of support you give our Patreon, from now until April, you will receive one entry into the competition that we're running to win a Shaltari fleet for Drop Fleet Commander. That includes a Shaltari Dreadnought, a Shaltari Starter Set, a Shaltari Frigates box, and a Shaltari Cruisers box. All of this will be sent to one winner. This winner will be drawn at random on our 4th anniversary, which is recorded at the beginning of April. For us to be allowed to send this to you, you need to fit 2 categories. You must be living in a country where it's legal for me to post you something from Australia. You also must be living in a country where it is legal to win competitions. If you do not live in a country that meets these criteria, then I do apologise. There's nothing that I'll be able to do, and I will be forced to redraw it. Please consider supporting us. We'd really appreciate it. All of this was purchased with my own money. No Patreon.
All right, so this is the first of our Bright Moon Archers that appear to have guns. I mean, I'm sure that there were people that pointed that out back in the day as well. I just find it amusing. There's 4 of these, and then 4 of the alternate sculpt. Basically, we've got a male and a female sculpt here, which is nice, actually. Been that much differentiation between the others before. Nice, simple design, but I don't mean that in a negative sense. I actually really like the design of those outfits. It's really nice. Here we have Froster. Appears to have a wand of some kind. Nice icicle-looking clothing, which is cool. Reminds me a bit of the Sorceress, actually. Just a younger version. I'm not saying that's where the inspiration came from. It's just what it reminds me of looking at it. Flood Arena is coming next. Very much your classical pixie fairy type pose. Giant wings. Now, the downside of board games and stuff is that when you're designing wings, you can't have small, delicate ones. Because obviously these should be much thinner than they are, but they're not. That's just the way that it is. Because otherwise these would snap and break and you would have them for 3 seconds at the most if they survived shipping at all. So this is actually a positive thing. I know that this is something that annoys people, but there is a reason why these things always have to have some thickness to them. They just wouldn't survive otherwise. Mermister, I don't remember this character at all, honestly. I don't know why. I just don't remember this character. Cool looking design though. I like that there's actually a back in here for the tail. Like there's actually a fin in there, where most mermaid designs normally don't have that. I really like that. Perfumer with her giant bouquet gun. It's just so dumb, and I mean this in a really, I do mean this in a positive sense. Like, it's just so stupid, and I love everything about it. Pigtails are quite nice. They feel very anime, the pigtails, actually. Glimmer. Glimmer's quite nice. The staff has a slight bend to it, but I actually think that might be part of the design by the look of it. I don't believe that's supposed to be straight. And if it was straight, it would actually be bumping into a leg. So I actually think that's supposed to be like that. Because like if I do that to bend it, like if that was straight, it would be up against that leg. I don't think that's warpage. I could be wrong. Again, like these things bending is actually fairly normal for these materials. And even then, like if that's warpage, it's actually really minor. But I don't think it is. And bow, which is, again, just all kinds of lovely. Cape's nice. It's time for the Princess of Power. Very much the classic design here from the toys. Really, really, really nice detail. And then finally, I was very impressed with the Swift-Winged that we got in the box of Power. This one is in a little bit more of a stoic, I'm just standing here pose, but it's still very nice. Can see a bit of a gap here where it's been built. That's unfortunate, but the first one of those I've really noticed, actually, which is actually really saying something. I mean, there's another one here on the wing, but it's not quite as obvious unless I doubt that most of you would have noticed that if I hadn't pointed it out. Because these are built. They don't come as one piece out of the sculpting. There's a gap underneath her crown there as well. In the boxes, there was also 2 of these tiny little mini boxes. And it fits right in there. That's nice. That's fun. It actually comes with its own little plastic. That's much nicer. And here he is. Like, this guy is insanely cute. So this is your equivalent to Orko, basically. Or Snarf, if you're thinking Thundercats. These characters were quite frequently very hit or miss. Your pet characters were either extremely irritating or fun. Snarf was notoriously irritating. I don't really remember having very strong opinions on Cal at all, really. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I just don't remember having strong opinions on it. Design-wise, I really like the miniature, honestly. It's a lot of fun. So there we are with She-Ra and the Rebellion. So far, this has probably been the biggest surprise as far as my experience is concerned. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this. I mean, I do like She-Ra as part of the mythos. I think most people do, quite frankly. But the last 2 boxes, like the miniatures were phenomenal and among some of the best that we had. But the scenario book let it down. The fact that this didn't even come with one, I was expecting to find very disappointing. But honestly, I don't. The sculpts in this were really nice. The detail, the hair in particular, really stood out on these ones. Like was really nice and firm detail. The armors and everything were done really nicely. And the design of the layout inside the box was actually quite nicer than the other expansions too. Look, if you're trying to decide which expansions you want, I mean, ultimately, I do think all of them are going to be worth your time, but this is right up there at this stage. The only thing I'll say is that if you're going to buy She-Ra and the Great Rebellion, you are kind of putting yourself into a bit of a corner, because realistically, there's no way you can buy that and not buy this as well. And this is what we're doing next.
You've made it through to the end of another video. Your next mission is to hit subscribe and comment down below. If you'd like to reach out to the team, consider doing that, gettingtabled@gmail.com. Consider subscribing to our Patreon. For only $2 a month, you get early access to almost every single video that we do. Our most active social media is facebook.com/gettingtabled. It's where you'll find everything first. There's also a Discord. There's an invite on screen right now. If you type that in, it'll give you instant access. If you're on Twitter or Instagram, you can find us at gettingtabled. It's not the most active, but it's something we're trying to use more all the time. Come and check out Jason the Bruce at Twitch. He does both video game and hobby content. And of course, without question, play more.